got about 3 minutes to talk about 3 weeks worth of information here. Check with me at 3:45 and we'll finish the discussion. Highly technical and controversial, yes. Say goodbye to R6 and R10. That's where we lived for years and years in no 269 standard. Now we have about 6 or 7 tables in the new. And of course, if you really look at it and just take a snapshot picture of it, you know, they've come up now and given us parts of the formula, but the electrical component of the conductor is going to be a vital part of that, along with altitude correction, which is mandatory. So when you look at the rest of these bullet points on here, and I'll just go through them right quick, expects the employers to calculate. This goes back to that arc hazard analysis and everything else that we've been talking about. All this, you know, there's a lot of things that the employer has to do, and some of it's got to be by January the 1st of 15. Provides alternate tables, but they're very conservative. That, again, due diligence and reasonable care upon the company, the employer, to take care of the employee. I think if we sell ourselves short, we'll get ourselves in trouble. You know, it's going to be some flexibility in there, but I think the more conservative approach should be to protect the employee, without a doubt. We get into the multi-phase exposure again. Phases not being worked on. This is one of those things here, the old, as far as I'm concerned, paragraph L, if you got a good cover-up program, you remove the multi-phase exposure, you only have a single-phase exposure or a single-phase line, then basically then you can use that measurement. Phase-to-phase exposure exists whenever it is foreseeable that an employee or the longest conductive handheld object, which is extended reach, of the handle can simultaneously breach the electrical components, not the conductors, but the components. And of course, everything is figured on the meter, and like, I guess it's 2.5 inches for 15 or 25 kV. When you go in and start taking the calculations and converting it from meters to feet and inches, you'll see what I'm talking about. But this is more information here that's needed to become in the future. Again, I think there'll be some challenges in here, especially on transmission side, because I know we got some transmission side. When we go to 27 feet working distance, arc flash distance on 500 kV, that's going to really kind of muddy up the water, because right now it's a lot less than that. Last but not least, on the multi-phase here, if these phases are not being worked on, covered, and isolated, as I said earlier before, then the exposure is that of single-phase conditions, and that helps. Phase-to-phase exposure there is a foreseeable feature when employees the longest conductive, as we said earlier, can actually reach from one electrical component to another of exposed phases. There's a graphic that Mr. Jim Vaughn, I think, has put this together or manipulated in place right here, which is kind of hard to see from the back right there, but basically it's putting the conductive object in that area between 2 energized phases not covered, and then you see they're not actually touching the phases, but they're in the electrical component, which is about 2.5 inches off. And then you see the circles represent the minimum approach distance to the conductor itself, and the MAD itself is 2 feet. I think he's got this figured right here. I think on the 12 kV, if I figured it right, it's still about 2 feet 1 inch. And on the 25 kV systems, it has gone to just south of 31 inches, which NESC went to in 2002. So basically, they've come up, and that's at that altitude correction factor of 3,000 feet or less. You get over that, then you got to multiply it out.
Any questions? We have one here, Matt.
Questions?
Good job, Danny. In 3 minutes, you did very well, I think. On the but taking this, what they say, and in the minimum approach, and you go back to the arc flash. Here they're talking about multi-phase. If you cover them all, then you're only working on one. Now that's single phase. Does that also apply back to the arc ratings, to where if you've got a line that's an 8 cal line, you get a multi-phase line covered. Now you're on a single. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So we could work up to.
If you've got it appropriately covered with rated cover, and it's appropriately covered, no exposed parts, you consider a single phase line.
Yeah, no
Very good.
exposure.
Okay, next question.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't ask them either.
I remember what I was going to say. There is one table in there, though, that they have the numbers between meters and feet superimposed
Oh,
in
yeah.
the columns. So,
Yeah, we can work 500 kV at 4 feet 2 inches according to that table right now. I wouldn't try that with a 10-foot shotgun stick.
yeah. Okay, next question.
Is there anything you can say about these transient voltages over 72 kV?
No, not right now. The over voltage in the spark gap or the insulated air spark gap is the two controversial parts. There was a lot of different entities that had input into that. They took one person's opinion, and that's what I'm told. And so, again, I think you'll see EEI step up to the plate right here and say, hold on, guys, we need to look at this again. Because if you really look at what the minimum approach distances are now, I think of the 500 a lot because I was kind of raised on it. But you can't even hardly climb by it, but I violate minimum approach. So, it's just, it's not right. It just can't be right.